Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran jazz drummer, pianist, composer, and educator Gary Husband. He talked about his new 2022 CD with the Trackers called Vaudeville 845. He is indeed a very rare breed of musician. His expression is divided equally in his capacity as a drummer and pianist and keyboardist of international reputation. His classical roots, his quest and development in the improvisational, jazz, and fusion areas, not to mention his tenure in pop, rock, funk, and credit circuits, are all very evident inside his distinct and very deep musical personality that has evolved over 4 decades of quality gigs and work. Enjoy this interview. Thanks for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome, Joe. I'm grateful that you extended a welcome to come and join you here. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So where are you coming out of right now?
We're in London, in England, in the UK. And, we're sort of stationed here for the moment. Yeah, it's funny, sort of transitory time. We're sort of thinking about being more permanent in Europe, different things like that. But, we're fine.
Before we get into your brand new album, I want to know the last couple years have been quite tumultuous for musicians, and I'm curious how you did over COVID and how that time changed you now that you got a new album and the world's waking up a little bit.
I think it was a time of, obviously, an immense interruption in our working schedule, goes without saying for everybody in the world, I guess. But, what transpired out of that was a sense of, in a way, priority, giving us time to sort of stop, look, and listen to others, and give rise to a certain compassionate nature within us, to our family, our friends, or everybody that surrounds us, and anybody in difficulty, basically. So, in a way, it has these sort of hidden, I wouldn't really call them blessings, but there are. It just gives rise to something we wouldn't have time to necessarily notice, never mind address in ordinary life. And beyond that, it was a real drag.
Yeah,
as I'm sure it was for yourself and those of us we know.
But that is so well said, because there is an awareness and an empathy that went into this time period that I think is essential, because we move so fast. And, we just kind of gloss over things sometimes. So that's very well said. So with this new album, yeah, you bet. So was this new album kind of an outgrowth of that time of lockdown, or how did this album come about?
It was, yeah. It ended up being a product of COVID, if you like, in the sense that, I've always been kind of good with timing. I mean, not always in the right way, but just to bring it together at that time, despite the near impossible odds, and amazingly, recording studios chose to sort of jack up their rates during a pandemic. I mean, really, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. But
nevertheless, as it transpired, I'm a great believer. If something's meant to be, really, something's going to happen to facilitate it. It's gonna fall into place somehow, because it wants to happen as much as we want it to happen. It's almost a sense of that, and it's in a way it's about as feasible to believe that as it is not to believe it, because things have their energy, and we put a lot of, really, myself and my co-leader with this project, Eddie Van Halen, the guitarist and programmer and composer in Norway, we put a lot of really a lot of immense energy into the sort of meeting point between us, and the fascination of that meeting point was the driving force, I think, in it, and that we were at the same time finding a very exciting new relationship, but at the same time one that really pushes the both of us and presents very definite challenges musically, in the way that they kind of mess around with our comfort zone, so to speak, in the way we are as players, and stretch them, and present us with having to figure out a way how to do things in a new way, which is really very. It was crazy good, to have that to go through. It was obviously a great distraction. And it came together very, very well. Whether that answers the question, you've got about a million answers there. Sorry, Joe.
No, it certainly does, and that's what I was really going for. And I'm curious with this release, what are you hoping the listener gets out of this album?
Well, I hope they get. I hope that they experience a determination and a hope, and a significant bringing together of all the resources that we can cultivate. Whether or not it's a drastic situation as COVID was. I mean, it's important that we remember that period for what it was, and a lot of us went through a lot of very emotional difficulties. I know people in the music business, who just will not be active in the music business anymore, which is, quite something. When you figure that there's like a space in time, and a pandemic like that can actually result in people just stopping, bringing a halt to their life in music or art or whatever it is. And, whilst I've been very sorry to hear that, getting back to your question, I hope the album reinvigorates optimism. And it can, as a way that really only music can do, and that we have the opportunity to do in only music, really, because it's there to become engaged in conveying feelings and dimensions that words I don't think can. So at least that's my belief. And since music can do that, I thought that, again, the energies really were on our side, and everybody worked. You'll notice there are quite a few bass players on the record, and they all worked remotely too. And what we got back from everybody was just perfect. It was like it was just meant to happen. All we were required to do was kind of like just set the thing in motion, and somehow it worked. I mean, all my drum tracks, for instance, were done. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but they were done in a very, very tight 2 days. And that includes kit setting up time, unpacking a thing, getting a sound, I'm fortunate I have an engineer I really like and really trust and one I've used many, many times. But it has to be said that, a great deal of the day, stopping for lunch and all the rest of it, inside of 2 days, a month apart, I reckon we did okay. I didn't listen to it for a while afterwards, but I came away thinking, I'm sure we all get this, and many of us experience the same thing in studios, that when we're going for something, we've kind of got an inner satisfaction, that was it, that we got it. And really the weakest links kind of remained in my mind, and I took them with me to the session 1 month later and sort of either redid them or repatched them or whatever. It was just thrilling that, I can't get over it really, how blessed an experience that is for it all to turn around so fast and turn out in a way that we still love it and remain very, very proud of it. So apart from the fact that between Alf and myself, it's a very significant record because, as I say, it really stretched us and brought us out of our usual comfort zones and usual more familiar ways of working and presented a big open door, like through which to walk through and find something new, and that really happened for the both of us. It's great. It's great, good feeling. That is great,
and I'm always amazed that jazz musicians go in the studio and pull these things out so quickly. I'm used to sometimes hearing big bands like, say, Radiohead. It's like they're heading into the studio and they're going to be in there for weeks and weeks and weeks. With jazz musicians, it's like a day or two, and it comes out wonderful, beautiful. But even going back to that earlier thought of jazz being that or music being that common language. Over this pandemic time, if we didn't have art, whether it was TV, film, visual arts, or music, it would have been a really, really dark place. So I think the fact that, this album is emblematic of kind of a new beginning for us, going out and seeing music and things opening up, it's reflective of what was going on during the pandemic that kept people alive. If we didn't have the music, that common language of moving our feet and walking and doing whatever we were doing, I don't know how we would have been okay. I think we needed art, and we need it now, just like we did before.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, it was a testing time, wasn't it? I mean, it really stretched our, everything to the outer limits. Our patience, our resilience, our strength, and our determination, I guess. To come through it. But while you're coming through it, gotta just get on. We just wanted to work, and everybody wanted to work. Everybody wanted to go outside, but you couldn't even do that. So. Like driving to the studio was put off. But finally, I did it, all masked up, and just got to work.
This love of music and creating, it's been in you for the past 4+ decades. And I'm curious, take me back to the beginnings of where these seeds started to grow for you, where you were born and raised, and how that music love began for you.
Well, I guess short answer is I was born into a family of a show business, if you like, and my father being a musician and my mother being a dancer and a singer, and really it was in the family to the extent that I was able to sort of witness live recording sessions as a youngster, and really, that it was the writing was very, very clear from me that and in me that I was going to be involved in music, because it was just a transporting experience all the time. Whether it be film music, TV music, whatever was coming in the charts, or what I was able to sort of discover with like classical training at the time on piano. So it was very clear time. I knew I never had any problems with what I was going to do. The only thing that really sort of came along to sort of fight that was a hankering to want to get in a race car. But I was talked out of that one. But the music one, it always wins, and I just went ahead with it. Really just pursuing. Finding the ultimate discipline through classical piano. I was giving myself a way to explore and to be able to discover freedom in improvisation, which was really at the heart of what I wanted to do all along. Whether that, you could read into that composition is a kind of an improvisation, but one really time consuming and one you really immerse yourself in through a lengthier time than spontaneous playing, obviously. But it was all about the creation and sticking with it and trying to get with what was somehow occurring in this sort of creative mind. What was I going to do? Well, what was I going to do with the drums? What am I going to do in music? And the answer, thanks to my wise father, was that he insisted that I start with classical piano, which was a fantastic basis and grounding for whatever you wanted to do inside of music outside of that, because it stood you technically, it stood you theoretically, with theory, about form, theory, and of course an early involvement and immersement in drums was starting to awaken and determine a certain rhythmic discipline in me too, because all the heroes and people I was listening to all had incredibly clear voices and real distinct and clear lines of playing, and it was like it's like being struck by lightning or something, listening to the great players for me. So that's what I wanted. That's what I felt, and in turn, it's what I was determined to try to cultivate and to somehow attain in my working expression, if you like, of in playing music. So really, life was very, very clear. There really wasn't any doubt what I was going to do, and first thing I could do, and thanks to the classical realm, I was so versed in reading music, I was able to go into a big band at the age of 16, which was an incredible experience for a drummer. Really, probably not a very available one for drummers in this day and age. But at the time, to have to sit in the middle of a group of 17 guys and center that music and make it happen, and also make it authentically happen, which involves studying that whole realm of music and becoming familiar and versed with so many of the great big band drummers, how they did things, how they set things up, how they made that music talk, what made it great instead of just good, And so I was there for about 18 months, and then I made a big move to London, at which point I started playing in just about every available scene that was open to me. Because music of every kind was something that it was all represented a way to go that had something to offer, and every unique experience of being involved, not only was it joyful in the sense it brought me to the attention of different people, but it gave me the possibility and the experience of meeting all these different people in music, and the experiences that happened applying myself to all these different areas were, I could really testify and say that all of these experiences gave me something and stayed with me, to the point that the instruction I was getting when I was 16 in a big band, it's like, I had to be clearer. I had to get an internal balance in my drum kit better, so that, that it was going to swing that way. It was not going to swing if it sounded lumpy and certain parts of the kit were sticking out. If playing the bass drum too loud, for instance, or something like that, anything like that, required a sure hand in putting those things right, and that being such a learning experience, it just stayed with me, and it's wonderful to see all these different experiences and benefits from just being involved in all of this different kind of music. From the keyboard side, it's amazing, for instance, what the keyboards give the drums, and the drums give the keyboards, and how they work hand in hand. So since I've really have two principal instruments. And I had a very big conversation with Chick Corea on one of our videos about that. Bless him, not too long before we lost him. Yeah, it was, another great period, another great thing to work through, another great result in just being open, really.
I think there's a level of versatility, and it's very evident when I look through the names of people that you played with. And there are so many huge names in jazz, but one name that's kind of tucked in the middle of everything that I'm curious about is Eddie Van Halen. What is it like to be around someone that I don't even know how you would describe someone like him? There's such he's a virtuoso, and there's such clout and professionalism. What was that experience like?
It was a very short experience. I had to make that clear from the start, because he as the world knows, had his band, the great band. But what we had done was get together for a series of live jam sessions, basically, with the guitarist that he acknowledged as being one of his greatest influences, and that was Alan Holdsworth. And I just happened to be sort of in the package at the time, and be involved in it. And it was quite something to really witness that. I mean, this again, not too dissimilar from what we were talking about at the beginning of this interview, Joe, with the trackers and the kind of disparate kind of nature that I have with my fellow co-leader. These two guys were on different planets, in different universes, shall we say, and to hear them stretch and reach to the point that they were able to pull something together, playing together, and be coherent, and be pretty amazing. I have to say, it was a pretty amazing experience to not only meet Eddie and be around him for a very short period of time. Nonetheless, it was also a fantastic pleasure to play with him. I mean, it's where you can't really dream it. There's only just the experience of it in a real time, in a real life space, that gives you the benefit of knowing exactly what it was like. And it was quite something. It was amazingly powerful. Yet again, I mean, we talk about so many great musicians, but Eddie was he was another one, man. He was powerful. Oh, man, did he deliver?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the one thing, too, I'm curious, you know, there's something to be said about longevity. You've consistently been at it for decades. What has been the key to you evolving and maintaining for all of these years?
Money. No, okay. No. The other short answer is, one-word answer is love. You know, because what would I do if I couldn't do this or wasn't able to do this? I have no idea. I mean, it's out of love I started playing. It's from love I was given the gift to play. And it's of love that I continue playing and will always play. And the music will be always about love as a sort of principal element and you know, inherent in the offering, in the act that it is, the endeavor that it is, the what you want to reach, what you want to say to people, the way you want to enrich people's lives. You want to make people have a better day, you know. You just want to make them feel good, or make them feel like dancing, or make them feel like rocking, or freaking out. And it's, how blessed are we to have an experience like that? You know, it really is quite something.
So you've had the opportunity to perform very memorable shows for many, many people throughout the years. Let's go back in your life. What was the first live show you saw that made you think, I would love to do that one day?
The real answer really stems from my upbringing, which I reflected on shortly before, where I was able to witness my dad's recording sessions, and he used to perform in a broadcasting band, a radio band, so to speak, and it was an old school radio band, man. I mean, there were two little boxes at the side of the stage, the theater that they were broadcasting from each day, and when that time came on recording, I felt like the hair stood up on the back of my neck. I felt that even as a kid, you know, just watching, and way too young to be involved with anything, but I just felt it, and I just felt the exhilaration of that moment, and just watching, and this intensity in the silence of musicians just before they were about to play, and there really was an amazing drummer with the band, and this was really stretching not my patience, but definitely my previously sort of more full-time commitment to piano, in that I wanted to really stretch and play this instrument. And it's largely through watching this one guy. Are you a drummer, Joe?
If I can do anything, I can drum.
Oh, okay. I'm glad to know that, because I actually didn't know, to my eternal embarrassment. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm a novice, so yeah, no, it's all good.
Okay. But still a member of the club, bona fide. Yeah. I know that.
Yes, sir.
We're all there, man. But the thing about, I just must say, you know, for the drummers, anybody listening, really, I think it has to be of genuine interest to, is the fact that the drummer in the big band had one 20-inch cymbal beside his hi-hat, and he had a usual kind of 4-piece kit of the day, you know, just one rack and one floor tom, one cymbal. And if you had to really know, if you wanted to know what kind of a cymbal it was, it had a lot of wash to it, but enough distinction that he could ride through things, but also use it as a crash cymbal, or for big accents, or for nuances of just about every kind. And for me to see someone doing that on one cymbal actually strikes me more today than it did then. I thought, back then I thought, well, it's kind of, why doesn't he have like a couple of crashes up there as well, you know? But now I see it, my God, the fact that he didn't was just amazing. So I think that lessons like that and witnessing examples such as that really kind of stood me in good stead as far as what can be done professionally and how to be almost transcend all limitations of the instrument and just speak music with whatever you've got in front of you, literally. And that was very, very important for me to witness that. On the other side of things, I saw a TV program back in 1972, and this guy played on this TV program. It was a live performance by the Stan Kenton Orchestra. I'm not sure how many people know of that name, but on the band, one of the great big bands of our time, really, with a very distinct kind of dramatic kind of style. And Stan had an amazing drummer in the band that I hadn't heard of, and I witnessed him right there as a 12-year-old for the very, very first time on TV, and it was right in front of me. And in his eyes, I could see this exhilaration, I could see this passion, I could see this just losing himself in utter, I can't even think of the right words. But if you see him, and it's on YouTube, it's the Stan Kenton Orchestra, and the name of the drummer is John Van Halen, and he's out of Cincinnati, and we lost him a couple of years ago now, but he was something else. And basically, my life was never the same since that evening, and that was. If you want to know what kind of like turned the lights on for me, that was the guy and that was the time. It was right there.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I'll send you links.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And the one thing too about all of these esteemed players that you've been around and mentors, what's been some advice that you've gotten that's continually resonated throughout your career that you've thought about and it's been instrumental in your development and maintaining who you are as a musician?
I have to say that usually what seems to go along with these people being great artists is that they are equally great and deep people. I should say. Not all of them, some of them can be a real pain in the backside to work for, but on occasions. But the great thing is that usually from these great individuals comes the great playing. Somehow to me it always seemed to work out that people play who they are somehow. And I really got this, for instance, I was talking with a friend of mine about discussing some memories we had about Jack Bruce only yesterday, who I had some great years with in the 90s, along with Gary Moore, the guitarist. But before him, before Gary, we had Blues Saraceno, really good kind of blues and beyond guitarist. But Jack was really such a unique animal and a real big beast to me. I mean, in terms of individuality and in terms of being unique and what he did, that was just a complete, like nothing I'd ever heard from a bass player. It was something where he'd just put notes where he'd look for holes. Like he'd look for holes where the drummer didn't play the bass drum. I mean, you check out those Cream records, you know all about it. There's almost like a stereo thing going on between him and Ginger, as particularly with the panning of the day and the drums on one side, and you almost hear the kind of like deep, 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 left, right, experience so often in there, and that was so unique, so very, very different from just about everybody I was hearing. And I was listening to a lot of people, for different reasons, and really a fan of a lot of great music for many different reasons. But what I noticed with Jack was and really took with me was how really to stand your ground. If you really feel passionate about a way of playing, and even early in your life, because a lot of our heroes kind of thrown out of music school very young, they were very certainly not welcome back, whatever cause, but usually the strength and the determination with those players was too much for them to actually stay on anyway. It was like they weren't supposed to be there. So the fact that they did move on Some were pushed, some just left voluntarily. Doesn't cause me to sort of poo-poo education as such, because it's all great. It's all really great. Maybe the point I'd make is that a lot of these guys were the result of their own brought about education. It was like almost the school of life for them, and it was music being everything in life. In a sense, it was a very organic kind of growth and development for them. And I really, really took from guys like that the courage and determination and conviction to stand my ground, to not to be talked down by anybody who would to take advice, to take complaints. I mean, if I'm playing wrong, I want to know all about it, and I did learn, and I asked for that kind of feedback all the time. But when someone's ragging on you, and it's not a very comfortable relationship, this called for standing one's ground, and if necessary, I'd leave, and find something else. And really great people like Jack sort of really taught me how to do that. I mean, as far as all the other players, I have trouble even remembering all the players now. Never mind what I was learning from them. But you can bet I'm full of lessons of every kind. I'm full of the benefit. And I've been very blessed appreciator of being able to cultivate that, information firsthand from people who really I looked up to, and in some cases hero worshipped. Billy Cobham, John McLaughlin. Yeah, there are quite a lot of them. So I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing, this probably would be easier to answer, you've been at this for a long time. What's the most enjoyable part about being a professional musician? Every day you wake up, what do you look forward to the most?
I think the sense of the new, the sense of, and the gift of really cherishing the moment. And I think nothing. I think in a variety of different situations one can benefit this, but it's a way to come into touch with the real experiencing of the moment. And maybe racing car drivers have this. People involved in some kind of high velocity, high speed kind of endeavor, real hard determination to really sort of know it. But the realization that of the importance of right now was just everything. And I kind of heard that in all my favorite players and amazing people, that I've been lucky enough to work alongside,
Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life. You have a perception of yourself. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are?
That's right.
No, that's good. I will never stop being curious. I will never stop being hungry for fresh experiences in music, and for I will never stop being open to the muse and for whatever possibilities that I can get through this amazing opportunity to be involved in something so divine. That it's, I don't really know how to explain it in any other way. I don't think a day goes by when I'm not aware of this gift. I think that's the only thing I can say. That other than the fact that through it, as I say, really, I'm in touch with just right now, and I saw players who played for right now, as I still do, and and I'd hear them play I'd hear that in the way they played. And then I'd go back and do some research on them and read them actually say that. That's just kind of where I am with it.
It's interesting when you say you're playing in the right now. I've heard a lot of musicians describe being around master players, and they just weren't even cognizant that they were like crystallized in this magic jazz era, or they were doing anything more, whether it was Jimmy Cobb at the Kind of Blues session. It was just one of those things that everybody was there and present. And I've heard you say that, and it really resonates because that's kind of, that's what the jazz musician does. What you all do is you do it once. And it almost seems as though you all were made for this COVID time. You're thrown into the unknown. You have to make it good and sound good, and it's going to happen once, and then you move on. It's like you're the artists for this time that we've lived through.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. I mean, I have to say, The Trackers wasn't the only album I did in lockdown, or was involved in lockdown. We also completed an album for John McLaughlin, who I've been working with now since 2015, and we made an album called Liberation Time. And most of the players there, mostly they were different lineups from track to track to track, and we all did it remotely. But what really tested us in that, and was like a affirmation of what we were talking about, experiencing from something like the COVID pandemic time, was this amazing opportunity to use the experience derived from playing, from being involved in music, from the many challenges and making headway through all those challenges that really go towards giving the musician an experience to the point we could actually play remotely and with headphones on to a previously recorded track that somebody had done. And yet experience would start informing us, I know that drummer, or I play with that drummer, whatever the lineup was. I kind of anticipated his or her movements. Well, in the case of the album, there were only gentlemen involved on it, but I was able to anticipate, just through having that person, that artist in my mind, who I knew was going to play drums. I had a pretty good idea of when they were going to start getting hot, that when they would start kind of like raising the temperature, so to speak, and the music starts getting a little wilder.
Before we go, I wanted to make sure that you let everybody know where they can pick up the brand new album, anything about live shows, anything pertaining to what's going on with you in your life now.
Well, we're hoping to, and it's kind you asked, Joe, thanks. We're hoping to make, start getting dates together for the Trackers. That's a very, very exciting thing to do, and again, challenging. It would be of incredible, excitement for us if we could, make that happen, start making that happen this summer, or maybe even spring. I don't know, the coming spring of next year, I should say. I'm not sure where we're going to do it, whether it be in Scandinavia or Europe or even in the States, if we can get the possibility. But right now, we're pushing the record hard, hoping everybody enjoys it and hope they'll stay with us through any kind of forthcoming live appearances. We just love to start kind of taking this music out there live and doing that. So that's really the sort of foremost thing right now for us.
Wonderful. Gary, this has been great, man. Thank you for opening up. This has been wonderful. Good luck with the album and everything as we move forward. It's been a joy.
Thank you, Joe. It's been an utter joy to talk to you, too. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in London, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Gary for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.